Right there. Are you playing piano tonight or is Andrew? Linda, I'm going to need that first because my phone is not wanting to. Yeah.
Well, that's all right. We'll look back and see.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started tonight. Welcome those that are here. Good to see you. You are the few, the proud tonight. We're glad you're here. I finished slowly reading through Jeremiah, and I moved on to Lamentations. So tonight, the most well-known verses in Lamentation 3. You know, great is your faithfulness. That's where we get the song from. These are the verses right after that. And he says, "The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." And the context when Jeremiah wrote this is the destruction of Jerusalem, 586 AD, when Babylon came in and conquered everything. And, I mean, utterly devastated everything. Just, you read Lamentations and the stuff that Jeremiah is seeing with his eyes and weeping because of what God has allowed to happen in Jerusalem because of the people's sin, and praying and crying out for God to forgive and to heal. But he doesn't force. He humbles himself before the Lord. He comes and bows before the Lord, and he says it's good that one should wait, and not just wait. What's the difference between waiting and waiting quietly for the salvation of the Lord? Do we really have that kind of a spirit in us, that even when we're in the midst of maybe a trial, maybe tribulation, persecution, pain, hardships, that we can wait quietly for God to bring salvation in his time? It takes a lot of faith, doesn't it? So with that thought in mind, we'll sing the song 413, "Take Time to Be Holy." Some things that God is trying to do in our life take time. And he may allow us to go through hard times for a long time because he wants us to be holy. So we need to be willing to wait patiently for him. So let's sing that together. Take time to be holy. 413. Thou shalt sorrow, still follow thy Lord. I'm looking to Jesus, still trust in his word. Right before Pastor Stevens comes up, there's a certain somebody in here that has a birthday tonight. Allison, who is that? Is it your mom, Andrea? Happy birthday. We don't normally do this, but for you, we will make an exception. We'll sing happy birthday. And Ben's not even here. Oh, what's going on? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andrea. Happy birthday to you. All right, and many more. And you're 29, right? Okay, good. Thought so. All right.
Okay, back to Israel. Last time I think we finished with Armageddon, Megiddo, I believe so. And so one evening, some of the evenings were open, but one evening our guide took us to a kibbutz. A kibbutz, they vary in structure. Some of them are so structured that you don't even own your own clothes. You take them into the laundry, you go to a shelf and it says your size, you pick them out, and everybody on a kibbutz works. And so the kibbutz is self-sustaining. And some of the kibbutzes are so successful that they highly encourage the people not only to take a year off every 7 years, but to go abroad. And so we were paired up with our former deacon, who's now the pastor, Jerry Marsden, and that's him in the silly hat. Let's go back one. Him and his wife. Let's see, somewhere I've got the. No,
I will say that the kibbutzes kind of got started when they first started going back to the nation. And Israel developed as a nation, and they didn't have establishments, and they started settling, and it's almost communistic because, everything's the same and they share everything. But it worked for them.
like I said, some are more structured than the others. Our guide actually lived on a kibbutz, and his job was to work on a banana plantation. Obviously, that's not all he did, but this is Pastor Marsden right here, his wife, and these two are our hosts. They're actually from England, but her sister lived in Israel, and so they moved and had their house built. That's their house behind them there. They had it built just the way they wanted it built. Every so often as you're walking through the kibbutz, we can have the next slide, you would see this. Anybody know what those are? Bomb shelters. And so every so often you would see one of those. Now remember, I don't even remember what year the Six-Day War was, but I did show you the one picture where our guide said probably cannons were firing from Syria into Kenitra. So this is just kind of a relic. They didn't really need them anymore, but there they are.
And who knows?
Someday maybe they will.
Departments have their own bomb shelters in the underground, underneath the buildings.
This is where a lot of the people lived on the kibbutz. It's more like what we would call an apartment building, and this is where they had their meals. They would meet there in that building, and some of the people were cooks, so that was their job. They fixed all the meals. This is again the home of the host, and he informed us that when he took his year sabbatical and traveled to America, that he would come to our house and stay for about a month.
We never heard from them.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't think so. Okay, Bet Sheen. I don't know how much you can read here. This, public latrine, and wait just, I think we have a picture of it.
It was an excavated one.
Visitors to the bathhouse and the theater enjoyed a life of social grace and culture. But what did they do when nature called? Like a true Roman Byzantine city, Betsheen had public latrines. Users entered an open courtyard paved with a mosaic floor and lined along the walls with toilets, with no separation between them and no evidence today of a division between men and women's facilities. A channel of running water beneath the seats provided drainage, and personal hygiene was achieved. And I won't read any more of it. Use your imagination. If you can read it, go ahead. Okay, there it is. That's what it looked like.
Actually,
This was a sauna.
yeah,
Now, this was a sauna, and at one time it was covered, but they would have hot water down here.
right, and then there was a plate-like floor that the heat could go through and it steamed and it became a sauna.
This is part of the city that was excavated.
Really special about this is, isn't this the one that was just recently in the last 10 years or 15 years at that time?
I asked our guide, how could something that big get that buried with dirt? And he didn't really have a good answer. How does that happen? I don't know. He didn't have a good answer either.
This was oh, come on. Oops, I didn't put in, I thought I put in one of the theater. This is the outside of a big, huge coliseum.
Yeah, we did show a theater last time. I'm getting an echo here. Okay, next Nazareth. This is one of the most interesting places we went. Did you find that little clay pot? No. Okay, they gave us each a little clay pot when we went in. You can go to the next picture. Mark 12:1. Listen to the description. He began to speak unto them by parables. A certain man planted a vineyard and set a hedge about it and digged a place for the wine fat and built a tower and let it out to husbandmen and went into a far country. Okay, there we see the wall. And this vineyard was excavated. That's where the, no, go back. That's where the grape vineyard was. And then there's the brick wall. There is that's actually a wine press. They would put the grapes in there and with their feet squish the grapes. And that is the watchtower. And that is a tourist standing by the watchtower.
Very handsome tourist.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but
Of course,
I told her to.
the straw cover was, of course, put in there for, this is probably what.
So the description, he set a hedge about it, digged a place for the wine fat, built a tower. Who knows where Jesus grew up? Yeah. As a boy, Nazareth is not a big city. And I have to believe that it may have been this very vineyard that the Lord was talking about. It didn't have to be, but I also have to believe that he must have been there, actually been there in that vineyard. And one vineyard would probably look quite a bit like another, but this was in Nazareth, and they had it set up kind of like Old World of Wisconsin, if you've ever been to there. Kind of set up like that, where the people were dressed like they would have been back then. This is a grain mill, where they would put the grain in, and then animals would go around, and the big stone there would crush the grain. That was an olive press, and it's kind of hard to see from here, but there were weights, and the olives would be put in here, and then these weights would be lowered, and it would crush the olives.
It's actually the weights, they hooked to those weights and it pulled down in that big
This is the actual synagogue that was in Nazareth. And again, I have to believe that the Lord was there. There aren't very many synagogues that are intact today, but that one, it was less elaborate than what I would have thought it would have been, and I'm sure some of them probably were more elaborate. But again, Nazareth was a small city. And who was it? Philip that said, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" It was looked down upon. Galilee, the whole area was looked down upon. This is modern day Jerusalem. Nazareth, excuse me. The houses are, you can't tell much, but they're very run down, but very expensive to live in. There was like a shepherd. There was a man doing some carpentry work with archaic tools, a lady weaving a rug or something like that. It was a very interesting place.
There's supposed to be a video here, but I don't think it's working.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
Okay, so the next one would be then Elam.
okay. One day, from between one place and another, we pulled over the road into a parking lot, and our guide did not tell us what to expect. It was not on the itinerary. We got out, and one of the pastors, it was his turn to do the devotional, and he started reading about David and Goliath. And this is Elah Valley, where David slew Goliath. The Jews were camped up here, and you can't see this, but over here is a hill where the Philistine army was camped. And down here in this valley somewhere is where David slew Goliath. And then we had to rush away, and I wanted to stay there in awe for a while yet, but I didn't want to miss the bus either.
So this is a close-up of that's an Elam tree
That's where God's name, Elam tree. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. Okay, Sea of Galilee boat ride. Before we went off onto the boat ride, you can show the next picture. There was a boat that had been recently excavated along the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Those are some of the nails that were holding the boat together.
It's just in the mud off the shore.
Yeah, it was. I always pictured, you know, when you're reading the stories in the Bible, in the Gospels about the boats that the Lord and his disciples were on, I always pictured something a whole lot bigger. But this is what remains of it. And I would say it probably was, what, Linda, about 8 or 10 feet long?
Yeah.
Not much left of it, but that's one of the actual types of boats that they would have used. This is the Sea of Galilee. It looks like a mud puddle. But for one thing, we're up on a hill, and for another thing, this is more of a panoramic view.
Yeah, I swept it as a pen.
It's a whole lot bigger than what it looks there. In fact, I don't remember how long it took us to ride across the Sea of Galilee, but it was a while. Just another picture. We're up on a hill, obviously. Just kind of a scenic view of the Sea of Galilee.
And didn't the guide say he lived down there?
I don't know. I had planned to swim in the Sea of Galilee, but the only night that I had available, there were a whole bunch of Jewish people there, and I just didn't feel like barging in. Okay, we're on the Sea of Galilee, and this is the boat that we rode across the Sea of Galilee on. Not much bigger than the gunboat that I was on in the Navy before I was transferred to the Iwo Jima. And you can see it was a little choppy that day. I asked our guide about it, and he said, yeah, storms can blow up really, really quickly in the Sea of Galilee. Go back one, would you?
Okay.
Not that one. That's Mount Carmel. We missed going up on Mount Carmel because, as I explained last week, we missed the first day because of getting snowed in Chicago. It was my turn to do the devotional that day. Now, when you go to Israel, you go to different points of interest, and they'll say something like, this is where the Lord dropped the cross, and this is where the manger was, where he was born, and this is, that it, it couldn't possibly be the exact same place. And these pictures are just to show that it was kind of choppy that day. And you can see by the unique hairdo that it was pretty windy. So it was my turn to do the devotional, and the first thing I said was, a lot of people don't know this. The boat stopped for the devotional because it made too much noise, and I had a mic anyway. I said, a lot of people don't know this, but this is the exact spot where Peter walked on the water. With my weird sense of humor. And then I did the devotional on Peter walking on the water. So that was kind of neat. This is where, okay, we're across the Sea of Galilee, and we're at a restaurant where the specialty was called St. Peter's fish. You could have it with or without the head. I chose not having it with the head, and I'm quite sure that Pastor Marsden here is looking for a shekel in the fish's mouth. But unfortunately, there was none. Okay, this is interesting too. Jordan River, how much time we got here? Okay, I don't think I wanted to say anything else about that. Jordan River, this is, okay, on the way to Jordan River, we stopped at a kind of a strip mall, and I noticed these two soldiers there, and people were taking pictures with them, and every time somebody came over to take a picture, they always made sure their guns were showing, so I thought, come on, let's go get our picture. In Israel, both men and women are required when they graduate from high school to, it was 2 or 3 years, to be in the military. Everybody. Okay, this is the traditional site of where Jesus was baptized, and again, of course, we don't know for sure if it was or not, but it could likely have been. This actually divides Israel and Jordan. When you look at the Jordan River, what thoughts go through your head? Okay. John the Baptist, the one that baptized Jesus. John? That was my first thought. You read about the parting of the Jordan, you think, really? They could have waded across this maybe. But Jordan was crossed during the rainy season when Jordan River overflowed its banks. And the water would sometimes be, well, there's the watermark right there. But the last picture maybe shows it a little better. Sometimes the water would, so, it would have been quite deep and quite a lot bigger. And what else do you notice about the Jordan that maybe is surprising? Yeah. Does that make you think about a character in the Old Testament?
And I'm drawing a blank with the name.
Naaman.
That's it.
He didn't want to dip in the Jordan River. I wonder if that was why. He was highly offended when Elisha told him, was it Elisha or Elijah? Elisha told him to go dip in the Jordan, but he finally did. But there were people there. You could rent a white gown, and there were people there baptizing themselves right when we were there. I don't think we got a picture of any of them, but okay, there's, the watermark when it's overflowed its banks. Just more of the Jordan River, and of course, we had to dip our tootsies in the Jordan River. Okay, Bethsaida. Oh, I I don't know if we have time to go to Bethsaida or not. It's almost 7:30. Let's read the verse, John 1:44. Now Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. So these three men at one point in time lived in Bethsaida. And as they excavated Bethsaida, there were three different periods of occupation. This is on the way. This is, anybody want to guess what that is? It's a banana plantation. And they cover them like that because it produces a better crop. I don't remember exactly why. I don't know if we have pictures of this or not, but every so often you would see a sign that said camel crossing. I haven't seen any of those around here. Okay, these are idols. There were idols to the moon god, and this would have been about Abraham's time that these idols were built. Absalom came here for 3 years, and Joab killed Absalom in this city, in Bethsaida. Later on, 5 of the apostles moved here. It's a close-up of, that was Pan, the god Pan. And this, our guide told us, almost 100% sure was a road that the Lord walked on. And that's just how it looked when they uncovered it. They didn't do anything to rebuild it or anything. That's exactly how it looked. So this was a military outpost at one time until 1967.
They actually used some of the house shells for their protection to, and it was Assyrian. The Syrians took this land and used it as a post.
Okay, what's the next picture?
I'm trying to get to it. There we go. Oh, here's the Nazareth movie. That's of the today city, and then it sweeps over into the old world rendition. Can you imagine living in those?
Okay, we'll stop there. If you want to hear about the feeding of the 5,000, then you'll have to come back next week. And I don't think we'll get done next week either, but the week after that is when the drama team is coming, so, but we'll keep on going until we get done. It's a luxury to not have to hurry through this. Every time I've done it before, except for one, I had to really hurry through it. Okay, I have a number of prayer requests I'd like to mention.